Hey everybody, today I got something a little different. I'm going to be changing the bridge on my bass guitar. It's because the old bridge I have on it is rusty. I made it myself as a machine shop project years ago and made it out of steel, and it has since rusted. So we're going to swap it out for a Leo Quan Badass bass bridge. It's going to require a little bit of surgery. Let's get into it. It's kind of hard to get it all in shot there. This is a Carvin bass guitar. Carvin was a brand many years ago that was quite popular with people who wanted to have custom designed guitars and bass guitars. You could tell them, oh, I want to have it made out of this wood, and I want the neck to be like this and this color, and so on and so forth, and they would make a beautiful custom guitar just for you. And that's exactly what this is. Somebody years ago had this made as a fretless bass with this these pickups and this finish. And it's about maybe 10-15 years ago they sold it. It showed up in a guitar store and I picked it up, and I love it. About, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago I decided to change the bridge, and because the one that was on it was not a very good one. It was aluminum. I just wasn't very happy with it, and I couldn't find a bridge that matched the hole pattern. And so this one is actually my own bridge. I made this in the machine shop, and it's made out of steel, and I used a small heat treating furnace to heat blue it, and it didn't turn out the way I wanted, but worse, the rougher parts. So all the polished parts turned color nicely, but the parts that were not really polished, all the things that just had the machine surfaces, those did not blue, and I guess that has something to do with the way heat bluing works. And unfortunately, the heat blued surface, which is kind of blotchy looking, but I like that it came out looking kind of like a color case hardened or something. That is a protective surface. It's oxidized, and it protects the metal from rusting. But the other parts that didn't blue were exposed to rusting, and the whole thing is covered with rust. And I decided I'd just replace it. And what I'm going to do is replace it with this. There it is, a brand new Leo Quan Badass bass bridge. This is exactly what I was looking for when I made the original bridge out of steel, and that is, I was looking for more mass. And this is made out of probably cast zinc or something like that, and it's a really nice looking bridge. And the hole pattern doesn't quite match the hole pattern on my bass. There's two sets of holes we have to deal with. We've got the holes for the screws. You'll see the light coming through. There's several holes here. There's 3 holes for the screws that hold it in place. And then there's holes that are for the strings to pass through. And why is that important? Well, this bass, if you look on the back, you see those right there, those little grommets. These are the tubes that strings pass through. So it's a through body design. And it would be really sad for me to put a regular bridge on that doesn't allow me to pass the strings through the body. So that's why I needed to find one that actually has the holes for the strings. Unfortunately, the holes for the strings on this bridge are in the same line as the screw holes, whereas on my guitar, the screw holes are just ever so slightly closer to the neck. There's I don't know if you can see them here, but the string holes and the screw holes are not directly in line. What this means is, I don't know. I think I should be able to just move the screw holes. What I'll do is plug the originals and drill them a little tiny bit over, and then I'll be able to mount this, because it's going to be the string holes that are going to drive everything. I can't drill new holes through the instrument. I'm going to have to put the bridge so that the string holes are perfectly lined up with the actual holes in the body of the instrument. And that means just plug those screw holes, move them over a skosh, and put new screws in. And, well, let's get to it. First thing is to take the strings off the guitar. And I'm going to be reusing these. These strings have another 10 years left in them. And I take the old bridge off, held in place by 3 screws. And you can see that the strings do indeed go through the back of the guitar. And the coiled up ends of the strings are a bit of a challenge. So now we go with our golf tees, and I put the golf tee into a drill gauge and find the drill that matches it. Put a piece of tape on the drill so I don't go through the back of the guitar. That would be sad. And then I drill out those 3 original holes to make them the same diameter as the golf tees. And it's every bit as nerve-wracking as you'd imagine, drilling into your pride and joy. And the golf tee fits perfect. So we're going to squeeze a little tight bond into each of those holes and set the golf tees in. Give them a twist and move them up and down a little to make sure that glue is smeared in there. And then we give them a few smacks with a little hammer. Wipe off all the squeeze out. And clip them off with side cutters. And you could call it done, but I'm going to put some tape around the area and then take the dullest chisel I could find and sort of slice off, using the sideways slicing motion, the nub and ends of the golf tees. If the chisel were sharper, this would have been a whole lot easier to do. But this is a process that you can follow to get a clean slice on something without marking up the guitar. And here's the new bridge. These are a piece of machinist paraphernalia that you use when you want to mark holes. So I find the one that matches the 3 holes I want to drill. Then I need to hold the bridge on the guitar. Conveniently, the through holes for the strings match those golf tees perfectly. So there it is. Then I put the punch in place and give it a few raps with the hammer. And do the same for the other 2 holes. And now with a 1/8 inch bit, I am doing the same drilling process with a little piece of tape to make sure I don't drill through the back. And you'll see what this has done is I've conveniently moved those holes about 1/8 of an inch away from the neck of the guitar. Now I need to bend this little wire out. That wire is the ground wire for the electronics and has to be in contact with the bridge. So we're going to have to clear off some of the paint off of the bridge. And I did that with a Dremel. And there you go, right there. I just ground off a little section, and that is going to be in contact with the ground wire. And let's screw everything in place. And one final bit of detail, I had to set the intonation for this bridge to match the old one. Of course, I can do this using a tuner, but it was just easier to match the arrangement, the measurements of where each of the saddles was located. Then later on, I can do some refinements of intonation. Before we talk about the finished installation, I just want to talk about this original machined bridge because it was a fun project. And I documented it. I took a lot of pictures. I'll show this right here. You can skip over this section, go to the next chapter if you want. But you can see that this is not a trivial object to machine. We've got these saddles in here. and each one has 2 little screws, and there's a little groove for the string to fit in. And there's springs and these screws that go through the back. You notice you've got holes for the ends of the strings if you want to keep the strings on the front of the guitar. And you've got the holes in the bottom for the through hole method. It was a fun project. Took me, I don't know, a month or so of Sundays to do this, and I enjoyed it. I just kind of wish it didn't rust. Here's the original bridge. It's made out of aluminum. I wasn't very happy with it, and I was going to replicate the design more or less all in steel. You can see my drawings that I made, and inside that chunk of steel is a new bridge, and I just have to reveal it. Here's the new bridge marked up with some Dykem and a whole lot of work on the milling machine. It took more time than I expected to mill out that pocket, the rough milled part. You can see I used a Sharpie to mark out the positions of everything right on the vise. There's the new holes. So the back edge is going to have holes for the string ball ends, as well as holes for the screws that adjust the saddles. We're doing the smaller holes. Here we go. There's the original bridge that came on the instrument and my bridge, and the holes all match up perfectly on the back. Another view. Bunch of parts I ordered from McMaster Carr. Here's the screws that adjust the intonation. I'm making little grooves for the height adjusting screws to fit in, and there's the finished part. And now, just like before, we have a piece of steel that has the saddles hidden within. Let's go to lathe. Turning new saddles. And I had to very carefully position this round cut lathe tool to cut the groove for the strings. Here we're tapping the holes for the tiny screws that adjust the height of the saddle. And there's the finished saddles. Put it all together, looks pretty snazzy. After quite a bit of work, the metal is all shiny, and I actually was pretty happy with it in this chrome-looking state, this polished steel state. If the guitar had chrome hardware on it, I would have spray-coated this with lacquer and called it a day. Put it in my heat treatment furnace, and this is how the bridge turned out with its funny blotchy look. And there we go. The bridge as it looked before it rusted, installed on the guitar. So there you have it. The new Leo Quan Badass bridge has been installed. And it is beautiful. And it plays great. That's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching.